When you're shooting a pistol, clearing a double feed malfunction is probably the most difficult and complicated thing that most instructors teach. But is there a simpler way to do it rather than the complicated means that is taught by most? I think there is, so let's talk about it. Okay, so when we're talking about your other types of malfunctions in a pistol, if you had a click when you wanted to go bang, the traditional thing, of course, if you got a click instead of a bang, I tap the bottom of the magazine, right? So I tap, I rack the slide, and then I get the gun back in the fight. Me personally, I always know that my magazines are seated well. I don't have a button release on my magazines. So I don't even do the tap, I just do the rack because I know my magazines are well inserted. Okay, so that's fine. If I have a stovepipe, didn't come out all the way, I do the same thing. Again, in that traditional mindset tap, I generally forego the tap because I know my magazines are well inserted and correct. Run the slide, let the gun do its thing, and go to town. But now we gotta talk about a malfunction that's not as common, but is much more difficult to deal with. And that's a double feed. So what we see here is that, I'm using these snap caps, right? Is that we have a round already inserted, and then the magazine tries to strip one out. Now this almost always happens because the extractor didn't get a hold of it, or maybe I got a broken case rim, something like that. Usually the extractor, is a little dirty or something. And so what happens is that, as you can see right there, the gun is trying to feed a round, but it already has a round in it. And so I go, click, and now I do my immediate action, and I still got a smushy, soft trigger because I have a double feed. So what happens here, I go click, or I go smush, I go, I get my gun back in the fight, still smush. That tells me that I have this double feed. Now, I am first going to show you the traditional method, the one that, that I was taught, that I've been taught, that most places still teach, okay? And that is so once I recognize what I've got, I go, try to pull it, nothing here. Okay, then what I have to do is lock the slide to the rear. Once I've got the slide locked to the rear, then I drop the magazine out, usually put it in a pinky or something like that, or I could just drop it completely. Then I'm going to rack 3 times, then I'm going to insert the magazine, and then I'm going to chamber around and go to work. That's the traditional means. Now the problem with that is just that it takes time. It takes about 3 seconds to clear that, and you notice that I put my magazine up here in the pinky because a lot of people don't carry a spare. Now if you carry a spare, it's one of the reasons to carry it because you had a malfunction in the gun, you can get another magazine in it and just drop this one. We are going to pull this magazine out forcefully. We're going to put it back in the gun. The gun is going to be forward. We're going to run the slide and we're going to rock and roll. So let's see what that looks like in slow motion. So again, you know that here with my VP9, I tend to use my trigger finger for my magazine, right? So here's what we're going to do. Now if I just hit that paddle release, nothing happens because this magazine is stuck in here because it's got some pressure. So I reach up and I pull it out. Now look at what happened when I pulled that magazine out. When I pulled that magazine out, the gun went back into battery. I instantly just put the magazine right back in the gun and run the slide. Now I go to work and do my thing. Once again, I have a bad trigger. I run the slide. I don't like what I've seen, right? That's when we know we've got a problem. Once I do that, I pull the magazine out, reinsert the magazine, run the slide, and now the gun is back in its functioning place. So let's look at it at full speed here. So again, once I've recognized that I have a double feed, let's do the traditional first. Once I recognize that what I've got's a double feed, I lock the slide to the rear. I pull the magazine out. I run the slide 3 times, put it back in, set the gun back out, and rock and roll. That was the traditional way. Okay, so now let's reset. And let's see the speed compared to the other way. Once we've recognized what's going on, we strip the mag out, put the magazine in, get our sight, and go to town. It's faster, it's simpler, you never have to lose this magazine. I think it's a winner. Give it a try. Work on it in your training. See what happens.